talk a bit ahead. That's the American crocodile, which is the largest.
Oh, that's right here.
Yeah, I got it.
The crocodiles, they're not. They're the ancestors of the crocodiles.
Oh.
This line is ancestral to dinosaurs. Which one?
This is where the ocean meets the river.
This is so gorgeous.
Is that something? You ever seen anything like that?
One more bridge go flying across.
Here comes one. Take it.
Our box.
Still hear it.
It looks like a brewer. So I did not get it. Go. Go. We're
She
coming.
will. She will. We're headed right towards it.
After this, I like to keep the tour very casual, and anything you'd like to talk about is good with me. But I do, because it's convenient now, these are just a few of the seeds that have washed down out of this forest. There are 409 species of trees here. Something you'll notice about these is that they're bloody enormous. These are not going to go through the stomach of an animal or get moved by a puff of wind. They require flooding for years, sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 times in a year. And that is one of the basic things about it. So in character, same type of forest. For any of you that have visited the Amazon, you may very well be reminded of this forest. Thomas. The place that we're visiting, the hill that we're visiting, is an extinct volcano. A type of volcano that doesn't form a crater, but pushes up out of the earth and makes a ridge that more or less faces the village in this case. But there is a sister volcano out at sea, about 30 miles out. Costa Rica gets most of its weather from the Caribbean. As the clouds move across the country, and behind me, they have to cross over the hills and mountains that form the Cordillera Central. There's a load of water that makes a big network of rivers, huge amounts of water coming down into the lowlands where we are. This is one of 5 river mouths between Nicaragua and Moline. And while this is not very wide for a lowland river, again, if you've visited lowland tropics elsewhere, you've probably seen enormous rivers. But this river is moving a huge amount of water. The main channel here in front of Casa Maravilla, where you're staying, is 82 feet deep.
Oh.
So yeah, so although this is not very wide, you could bring a ship in.
Wow.
5 to 6 meters of rainfall.
Wow. That's a lot of rain.
Yeah, 1 meter is that much. 409 species of trees here, and over 120 different families. The richest forest in North America contains 37 species of trees. The richest in Europe contains 35. Where you've got 409 species of trees alone going on, and thousands of species of smaller plants. Animals are parasites on plants. All visible life is based on that. If they don't eat plants directly, then they eat the animals that eat the plants. And all visible life is based on this. That's what makes the lowland tropics of the world so interesting biologically, so rich biologically, is the huge variety of plants. So, as we're going through here, anywhere you've got a lot of life going on, you've got a lot of death going on. And plants and animals develop gimmicks in these places that are second to none on Earth. Discuss a few of them. Some of them are very interesting and involved. May occasionally see a few other insects, but quite frequently, when we do see them, they're walking to the other side of, or running to the other side of a leaf, or around the side of a tree. Again, competition for life. And unless you have a gimmick like extraordinary camouflage, and in a sense those animals are in hiding all the time, we generally don't see very much. Just mosquitoes, ants, a few butterflies. The tree just here, the twinned tree, is a wild nutmeg. This is one of the great drug plants of South America. I don't know of its use at all in Central America. People don't seem to have discovered it. But the process is to take a section of the bark from lower down on the tree, scrape the inner pith of the bark, dry the shavings, grind them into a powder, and take them so. They cause an effect that is very similar, a powerful hallucination similar to LSD. The chemical in this case is tryptamine, which is a chemical that our own brain produces in tiny quantities. This plant produces in big quantities. Before we go too much further, I'm going to, again, down to basics, discuss just a little bit about some of the basics of the plants here. Firstly, you'll notice how many of the plants have extremely broad leaves, very, very big leaves. But for the plants that are living down here, those that are not growing as vines and lianas or as epiphytes, and look at how many of them are.
Yeah.
It's competition in this case is for light. Those plants that are doomed to live out their life as little things in the forest floor are very, very specialized for this place. For one thing, they will be, if I have toured in places in here where when the water has been this deep. So, you can see a lot of the vegetation here is shorter than that. So, if these plants are underwater for 12 days out of the year, they have to be specialists in living in conditions that would kill almost any plant in the world. And it is the same with the trees. They're living in conditions that would drown most trees in the world. And yet with trees alone, there are 409 species of them in the plant kingdom quite generally, but very specifically so here, is a spiraled arrangement of leaves. And it's not only this plant. I mean, these are costus. They're related to gingers. It is the point of this is so that in the dark understory where we are, the shadow from this leaf is not going to interfere with the photosynthesis of this leaf. And you find this again and again. This palm is arranged in the same way. This is a species of philodendron arranged in the same way. You find it with the trees here and so on, maximizing their exposure to light. Trail up to the top of the hill is over in this direction.
Okay.
So I think, go over to the cave first, where we may see vampire bats, and then come back here and climb up to the summit. My own experience, I was the manager of a biological field station back in the forest here in Tortuguero for 5 years. Managed another station in the Osa Peninsula for 1.5 years, and another one in the Amazon in Ecuador for 1.5 years. I tried to go back to Canada and hated it. So I came back here.
No rainforest in Canada.
There are.
Actually, there are
Yes,
on the
sure,
west coast.
sure, big pieces of rainforest, but the weather is better here.
Obviously.
Anytime you see a white flower in a tropical country, in the lowland tropics anyway, almost always, almost 100% of the time, it is pollinated at night, white being a good advertising color for night. Further advertising, if it has a sweet perfume, it will be pollinated by nocturnal butterflies, moths. If it has a green banana aroma or a yeasty, musky aroma, it'll be pollinated
Here we
by
have
bats that eat fish, bats that eat frogs, bats that eat other bats, 3 species that do nothing but drink blood. They take no other food. And one of those, hopefully, we'll see in a few minutes.
And they get the blood from cattle or from other
The
animals.
one that we are going to try to see is the common vampire, and it drinks the blood of large mammals, including people if it gets a chance. And the so-called common vampire is not a very common bat, but it gets called that because in places where in areas where people move in, they bring cows and horses and pigs and dogs and themselves, so they increase the food supply. And the population of vampires can locally suddenly explode. And so it is known as the common vampire. But There are two other species that mainly drink the blood of birds. Another characteristic of this type of forest is that usually is on a foundation of sand, and because of huge amounts of water going through the sand, all of this stuff that decomposes very rapidly, the nutrition is not left available in the soil as happens in winters in colder climates. So it all gets rinsed away, it all gets leached out of the soil very, very rapidly. So that's the other thing to consider about plants here. Living in low light, in saturated soils, they're also expert at taking up nutrition. What little nutrition becomes available at any given time, they're able to take it up very efficiently.
What's the
So,
fungus?
and a non-parasitic fungus. I'm a botanist. I don't know anything about fungus. They have always been included in books with books of plants and so on, but they don't belong there at all. A fungus has more to do with you and me than it does with plants. For one thing, the cells of a fungus are made of chitin, the same material as our fingernails. The cells of plants are made of cellulose, lignin. A plant never produces chitin.
Right
Oh,
here. Oh,
that's an anolis. Anolis limnifrons, this one is. And they're, we should see a lot of them today, I think.
Is it a lizard? Or?
They are a lizard. Yeah, salamanders can be found in the country, but not at this elevation.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, so
The butterflies that we're seeing here, a lot of these, you will not ever see them in the village in Tortuguero. They're very sensitive to humidity levels and very sensitive to light levels, and they tend not to come out into open areas at all. It's not alive. This is a cicada husk.
is it? Stripe. Why this? Yeah, why the stripe? Is he poisonous or no?
When you see something distinctive in coloration in tropical animals, think advertising, think sex.
Oh, it must be a boy.
You mean like these
Male.
boots?
They're
Like these boots?
terribly sexy, by the way.
I know. How is it that I'm still single? Careful of the little bug, the little ant.
Oh yeah.
A little bird called a mannequin.
No, we haven't.
I can hear mannequins over here.
What do they sound like?
So listen for a sound.
I just heard it.
No, that's the sipping of the voice. Yeah, those are the voices. But the males display for the females, and they jump between low branches, and on their way between branches, they bring their wings up behind their backs and snap the tips of them, and it makes that sound. And they're only a little thing, the size of a house sparrow. If you're not accustomed to plants that do this, it can be a little startling to see it first. These are flowers coming. They're not. Nothing is apparently open quite yet. But the tree is a wild cacao. It's very closely related to the cacao that we use to make chocolate. And like cacao, it flowers in this way, jutting right out of the trunk come the flowers. And then consequently the fruits jut out of the trunk. They don't grow on little branches. It's a habit of growth called cauliflowery, like cauliflower.
What do the flowers look like?
They're going to be reddish on the outside, white and purple on the inside, and they are nocturnally pollinated.
And the flower is on the vine.
No, it is the tree.
It's
The tree is covered with vines as well, but
But the
but these
flowers
are the
on-
flowers coming are
on
from
the tree.
from the trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
This little tree.
So they come from the trunk, not from the top.
Exactly, rather than something like an apple or a peach, which
That's really
which
strange.
flowers and fruits on new wood.
Uh-huh.
This flowers on old wood.
Oh.
We're only going to have so much time for everything today. So in some cases I need to be very brief. A lot of the bat species that live here, and in Tortuguero specifically, there are 79 species of bats that have been discovered here so far. That is incredible.
79.
Yes. Yes.
That's amazing.
And many of the smaller bats build tents. So they'll take a wide-leafed plant and bite down the leaf in some way, usually down the midrib. So instead of sitting so, it sits so. And then the places where their teeth have been, their claws can hold on to. So in this very wet place, they're making tents for themselves. And this is a bat tent right here, but there are no bats in it. In this palm-like plant, Carludovica, there's a bat tent up here. And you can see where the teeth have bitten. And it's all done in a very regular way. You can see that this is not casual damage from breaking branches and that sort of thing. Tortuguero is actually famous for bat researchers. And that was probably, during my 5 years with the station here, that was probably the most active single form of investigation was bat research.
Are they all nocturnal?
Yes.
The bats?
Yes, they may be active during dark.
Like dusk?
No, I was thinking wet afternoons,
Oh.
dark wet afternoons.
I see.
They may
Yeah.
start to be active, especially the insect eaters. But bats, they are nocturnal. Although they have, contrary to what many people think, they have excellent eyesight, very sophisticated eyes, or at least most of them. Pretty sophisticated hearing in most of them, and absolutely incredible hearing in a few of them. Okay. For this, not much of a representation of a tinamou, but that sort of mauvey gray feather. This is a forest bird that is related, it's about the size of a chicken, but it's related to ostriches and emus. Odd one. Don't see them very often anymore.
Do they fly well or?
They're running birds. They're able to fly a little bit.
Like the
But they're,
ostrich?
that's right. But they're also, unfortunately, very good tasting, and they're becoming difficult to find. Not the most complete example, but this is a rare thing in Tortuguero, a seed that is distributed by wind. Wind distribution doesn't work very well here because it is such a terribly, terribly wet place. I wish I could find a more complete one, but if you can get an idea, this grows as a liana. It's called Pithecompenium, and it grows as a liana way up there someplace. And these seeds, with just even a very, very minimal breeze, can travel a huge distance.
Oh, I think I would have thought it was a butterfly.
Yeah. And lianas tend not to have plants don't have their seeds distributed by wind very much. What happens is the pod that contains the seeds opens up, and then it rains like hell, and the whole mess just falls to the ground at the base of the mother plant. This is not what seed distribution by wind is all about. Very easy to recognize, and consequently a good one to know about, especially if you're planning on getting lost in these places. It's a good one to know about. The peeling reddish colored bark. This is Deleniacea. This is one that being a family, there are a number of vines within that family. This is the one, if you get lost in these places and you need to find drinking water, this is one source of safe drinking water. And if you cut something that size, this will pour safe drinking water. Good drinking water is very hard to find here, and it's your most immediate goal. There's a poison dart frogs. Yeah.
Really? Yes.
Oh, he is.
Little red frog.
He's right at the base of the big tree.
Oh, that's what I
He's
did
about
when I-
that big.
Oops, he just jumped away.
Along. But the tricks and gimmicks. The trick and gimmick in this case is that we have here, there are 47 species of frogs. But this is pretty much the only one that you ever see during the daytime. And the reason for that is that the thing is poisonous. Nothing can safely eat it. So that's
So it
the
can
trick
be
and the
out
gimmick.
and-
It can occupy a different niche from all the other frogs. So because of competition in these places, if you're able to do something as a novelty act, that's a good kind of a novelty act to have. Yeah, you can do something different and survive in a different way from the other frogs. As I say, there are 47 other frogs here, but they're all active at night. And so that's the value of night tours. If you get a chance to go on a night tour with somebody, we're not permitted to do them. Some people do in different parts of the country. There have been a few snakes have been noticed to eat these frogs, but it's thought that they do it by accident because it immobilizes the
And
snake.
only once.
The frog contains a neurotoxin, so after the snake has eaten it, it needs to find a safe place to be for about 10 days. Well, to find a safe place here for 10 days to just loaf around and do nothing is not very easy. And then and that seems such a terribly high price to pay to metabolize that little morsel of meat. I seriously, I would be inclined to agree that it's done by accident. The vine that we're seeing here, not terribly important maybe, but the vine that we are seeing here is an orchid that grows in a vining way, and this is vanilla, which is where we get the spice from. One of 4 species of vanilla that live here. One of the most incredible gimmicks in the world is by this palm. There's a palm called Socratea exorisa. A deep forest palm grows, most of it at least, grows very slowly. The roots grow very, very fast. But the crown, because the crown and the trunk of the plant don't grow very quickly, it's a danger all the time of having other plants grow over it and steal its light. The gimmick in this case, it will put out roots from the trunk to the ground, a mature root like this, in only 4 days. It will do that in response to stress from darkness. It will allow the roots then on the darker shaded side of the plant to die and decay, releasing it from the soil, and over a period of time it walks into better light.
That's incredible. A walking tree.
It's a good one.
That is a good.
Do these little spikes, are they important?
The little spikes important. That's a good observation.
If I don't remember anything else about today, that's the good one.
These little spikes, the plants that produce these, we think that they are modified breathing organs called pneumatophores. And they tend to occur in plants, very few species of plants, but plants that always live in extremely wet places. And it shares something, it shares this in common with 8 other species of plants in the world that have spines on their roots. And 2 of them live here, and there's a 3rd one, not native, that lives in the village. Yes, exactly. And it is closely related to Christmas cactus. And Easter cactus and other forest cactus. It does make the point when you're, well, here we are, this is one of the really wet places in the world.
Who would think there'd be a
And down here, it's always dark and wet. But up in the trees where these things are growing as epiphytes, all the orchids, the bromeliads, the cactus, the gesneriads, the cyclanthaceas, the ferns, on and on, many, many species of them, they must be living, must be specialists at being able to live in extreme drought, because where it is always wet and damp down here, only a few minutes of sun up there and it's absolutely parched. That tells us there are also fruit bats living in here, but in Fifth Early I've never seen one.
So this is the back cave.
This is the only cave
This
in
is it.
Tortuguero because Tortuguero is flat.
Is that from their digestive right there?
I think these are stains of minerals. But bats may have contributed to those minerals.
Here with the poison?
Yeah, I saw the packaging a couple of days after.
How long
they'd
ago was
done
that?
it.
Like this
That
year?
was just a few weeks ago.
Oh.
But I have come here and you received 40 bats just in the entrance of the cave here. People in this area. There, yeah. Partially it's a fear of rabies, and that's
I understand that.
rabies is very exaggerated.
How do they do that if it's a vampire bat? Do they, like, bait? I mean, what
They smear the body with blood thinners, warfarin,
Oh, I see.
and then one bat gets groomed by many.
I see.
It kills many bats.
So they would smear
Long-nosed bats.
Oh.
Yes.
I knew it was some kind of nose.
No, and they're not pretending to be a snake.
They
But they're-
said they lined up in a row, and then they would kind of move.
They would wiggle.
One would
No.
go left, one would go right, so they said it was imitating a snake.
Oh, no.
Those wings.
People talk all sorts of rubbish about these things. But I think what is happening, I'm not going to tell you what is happening, but I think what is happening is their spiders will line themselves up along the underside of trees because it gives them some protection from rain. And so that leaves their webs behind, and then their webs can catch debris. And all that little rocking movement that you get from the long-nosed bats probably is to imitate leaves
Oh.
blowing
Makes more
around in
sense,
the
'cause I
breeze.
was like, that doesn't look
Yeah.
like a snake.
It doesn't look like a snake at all. A snake doesn't move that way. Scarab beetle. Yeah.
A scarab
Oh,
beetle?
and I shouldn't disturb her. She's laying her eggs.
Oh.
This is, they lay their eggs in decaying wood. And in some cases, the larvae of some of them, the largest beetle in the world lives here. This is much, much smaller. But the largest beetle in the world lives here.
How big
and,
is it?
The beetle
I didn't
itself,
mean to- I'm
the
sorry,
male,
I
because the
must
male
turn
has
this
a
off.
horn
It was
on
just
the front of it,
crowning.
the male can be that
my
size,
gosh.
that length.
Beetle
And a body that
Oh.
wide. You can see climbing up here. This is a liana. This is a vine. This is not a tree.
Huge.
It is. It's about hinny. And we know almost nothing about the age of trees in these places, because if you cut one of these trees, it doesn't have rings the way trees do in northern climates. Rings are formed by fast and slow growing seasons.
Oh, yeah.
And so, if we are looking here at a liana that is 250 years old, then the tree that it is growing on is at least 250 years old. It's not precision by any means, but it's a way
how
to
do you know
start.
the liana?
How does he know the liana? I haven't yet had time to get into this, but I will.
He's just right there, like
Oh.
12 feet up.
Oh man, we're right under the poop zone.
He was throwing sticks at us is how we found him.
Coming through the forest around us.
Watch out.
This is my hood.
Oh, it's white face.
We won't hurt you.
So that bouncing is like
It's aggression.
aggressive.
Oh, he's
That's
biting,
really
biting
cute.
sticks off.
That's what the
He's
skunks and the
He's one
bears
of those
do.
Islamic.
protective gesture about
Oh,
the
he
rest
wants
of
to
the
get
family.
closer. Oh. He says, go away.
Yeah, and also to be stared at directly by a monkey is an aggressive gesture. You'll also see
I
them.
didn't know that.
Monkeys will also flash their eyes.
Oh.
That's also aggression. And when they crap on you, it's just a sense of humor.
Yeah, I think it's funny. As long as it's not me.
yes. Believe me, some of the fun goes out of it after the first few times.
I hate him.
Maybe he wants to join the other group and we're blocking his way.
No, not at all. He can easily move through the trees in just a couple of seconds. 40 feet in just a couple of seconds. But what he's doing. He's curious. He's and he is that close because he's not really feeling that we are a threat.
Eaten by sloths and howler monkeys.
And I see one. I'll point it out to you. But anything that is going to affect a monkey like marijuana is going to affect us like marijuana. Our physiology is almost identical, and there are people in the village who smoke this. A personal peeve of mine that the chemicals contained in plants, if they're not vitamin C and vitamin A and sugar and starch and this stuff, they're called secondary compounds. They are not secondary compounds. These are what give the plant their very existence. Without these chemicals, plants don't survive. Never mind vitamin C. And really, I'm looking forward to the day when vegetarian diets are declared illegal. Or dangerous, at least. A little facetious there, but in fact, plants are very good at defending themselves. And I know a lettuce is not your self-sacrificing friend. It doesn't want you to eat it.
They build their
I saw
home
one
with them.
trail of them.
Oh, neither. The fungus is found nowhere else in nature except the nests of these ants.
Wow.
And these ants eat nothing but the fungus. When you see ants, what you're seeing are females. They are, male ants of course do exist, but for the purposes of reproduction only. Nature doesn't care very much about males. In modern biology classes these days, they put it more bluntly than I learned. They say sperm is cheap. Have very shallow roots that spread out and mechanically hold up the tree the same way a camera tripod holds up a camera. You're well familiar with. This is a philodendron or a monstera. So if you don't have them at home,
With philodendron.
yeah, philodendrons have three different growth forms. They'll start off life from the seed as a naked green wire, photosynthetic green wire that goes across the forest floor, no leaves on it. And while it is photosynthetic, it is also scototropic. That is to say, it's looking for shade. When it's found shade, then it's found something that it can start growing on. And then it changes its form of growth into these disc leaves. And as the disc leaves go up the wall or tree that it's growing on, they become freestanding leaves of a much more familiar form for us. A lot of different philodendron species in the world. As an example, we would talk a little bit about mechanical defenses. But mostly about chemical defenses. This is a very good mechanical defense. And the thorns on roses, the prickles on cactus. A bit gimmicky, but quite interesting. Brushes on the surface of the leaf called trichomes.
Silica.
Silica, yeah. So the point of this defense, if you're a little creature trying to eat this, an insect, and your mouth is made of the same material as our fingernails, Kaiden, to eat something like this is going to be like eating a brick. And if you look on the clear part of the plastic here, I'll demonstrate that.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
If you feel the surface, it's like fine sandpaper.
Oh, it is very fine sandpaper.
Yeah, Costa Rican jewelers used it for final sanding before buffing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
Wow.
It gives you such a great overview of the area too. Between the ocean and the rivers and the very, very flat land. In Spanish this is called the plains of Tortuguero. Parallel the ocean just as this one does. So you've got the action of the waves of the sea is also pushing up sand in this direction and then directing the flow of the rivers. It has. I was assured by a couple of geologists, Costa Rican geologists, I was assured that we couldn't have a tsunami here. I don't really understand why, but that's what I was told.
He's saying there's a plant that closes its leaves exactly at 5 o'clock, and we want to be out of the Costa Rican forest by 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Spider monkey. Wow.
Yeah.
We saw two earlier. Oh, what a great shot that would be.
Awesome.
Oh, I don't need to get anything.
We're going to try wild cacao.
Oh, we are?
Yes.
Right, huh?
Like in a regular cacao, there's a bunch of seeds on the inside of them. The seeds, in the case of cacao, are what's used to make chocolate. In the case of wild cacao, the seeds are not eaten, but you can eat the fruit. And each of these is an individual seed wrapped in a little bit of fruit, and this fruit is kind of citrusy and refreshing. It'll give you a chance to try it.
What do you think? Is it good?
It's really good.